It's time to start Dishin Days with your hosts, Tony Moore, Michael Mattis, Justin Lee Hareld, and Araceli Aviles. And now, let's dish. Hi, hello, all you Dishin Days fans. Happy Sunday, and welcome to another live and in living color episode of Dishin Days, where we're serving up a full dish of this week's episodes of Peacock's exclusive #1 award-winning hit soap opera, Days of Our Lives. And in case you haven't already, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. We are Dishin Days Show on Facebook, Dishin Days on Instagram, X, which is formerly Twitter, and Threads. So make sure you find us on there. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching us now, make sure you click the subscribe button and the bell notification. That way you'll never miss the live broadcast. And if you're listening to us on one of your favorite podcast stations, which includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and you are tired of hearing our voices and want to see a face, go over to YouTube and subscribe. Or if you're tired of looking at our faces and just want to hear us, then make sure you find us on one of our favorite podcast stations and subscribe and take us along on that long car ride, that walk through nature, or while you're stuck in traffic, you can catch up on all things Days of Our Lives. You can also buy our merch. Yes, we have these lovely items up for you. We have the Meliswin logo, the Possessed Dishin Days logo, and if you want to serve up a full dish on a t-shirt, a notebook, a pin, a button, head on over to dishindays.threadless.com and get your merch, not tomorrow, but today. Also, make sure you show some love to our former co-host and my chocolate twin, James Locke Jr., who is doing all things soaps on his YouTube channel, JLJ Media. Get your soap opera fix with an update on General Hospital, Young and the Restless, and Bold and the Beautiful, or check out some of his original audio dramas. All can be found on JLJ Media on YouTube. I'm very happy with myself because I got through that a little bit quicker and fancier than usual. Thank you, my co-host. I'm so happy. Before we before we talk about this week's episodes of Days of Our Lives, we have a very, very, very special guest. He is no stranger to this wacky show, and he is coming on to talk about his latest podcast, which is The Lost Treasures, which just started earlier this month, and the first episode is already out. The second episode is coming soon, but he's going to break it down for us. Y'all give it up for your favorite Dimera, Mr. Thaao Penghlis.
And ours.
Yay. Oh, that was my cue.
Yes. I gotcha.
Hi, Thaao.
Are we on?
We're on. We're live.
Oh my God, what an introduction. I just thought, oh, well, okay. oh God. I wasn't very prepared. Anyway, we're here. Hello, everybody. It's kind of nice to be on a show that feels like, you're around the table in the watering hole and you're discussing whatever.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it's always a treat for us to have you on. I always get nervous because I have to make sure that there's a question in there somewhere, unless I'm going to be reminded that I'm supposed to ask the guests questions.
Yes, you can tend to forget to go on for your essays, but you're very entertaining. I don't mind listening for a while, but sometimes you say, okay.
Yes. Well, Tony, you do you want to start us off?
No, you go ahead. Did you have?
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Here's the thing. I didn't know what to expect when episode 1. And for those of you who don't know, episode 1 of Thao's podcast is already on all your podcast listening stations. I listened to the first episode today, and I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled because I am one of those people that in high school hated reading the Odyssey. It was the bane of my existence. Not because I didn't love classic literature, but because I wanted to read the Iliad instead. I always thought that was just a much more fascinating story. And so when you started recounting the story in the podcast and then going on to the actual history, the legend and such, it thrilled me to no end. So that's my little spiel about why I love this story. Thaao, why do you love this story, and why did you want to turn it into a podcast?
I've been sort of studying on this subject for about 20 years. It happened when I went to the Archaeological Museum at Athens. Someone recognized me from Mission Impossible. It was very popular in Greece at the time, and he asked me, "What can we do for you?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to see the Minister of Culture." And so they got an appointment for me. And when I sat with him, I said, "If you would open Schliemann's house for me." I thought he would say no, but he said, "Yes, and what else do you want?" I said, "I want to study at the Gennadius Library, the 60,000 documents they had on Schliemann." And so I got into all that in 2 weeks. I went through the mansion. I went to Troy. I sat at the edge of Troy. I went with Sherry Anderson. She and I got caviar and some champagne to celebrate the beginnings of this tale. Only I found out 3 years later it wasn't caviar at all. It was little pieces of chicken that they changed into caviar. So we wondered why it was so cheap. And so we celebrated with, fake caviar. But anyway, that's how the story started. I mean, someone said to me one day, "Well, Troy, it's just rocks." And I said, "No, it's 9 cities built over each other." And when you're sitting at the edge there and your imagination goes and you realize that in front of you, where the Trojan War took place between the Greeks and the Trojans, I mean, to me, that's very exciting. And then I went to the Archaeological Museum in Athens. I saw the treasure that he found in Mycenae, which is part of part 2 coming up, which also has a curse, which I love that story a lot. And the reason I love that part of the story is because while he was uncovering in the Lion's Gate, in the Citadel, when he was uncovering, going through the soil, he came across a mask, a golden mask. And when he lifted the mask, there was a warrior, which was 3,500 years old. The lips were still there, the eyes were still there, and then within 5 seconds, the whole thing turned to dust. So things like that got my imagination going. And that's why this podcast, to me, other than having read Homer's work when I was younger, it's like you're walking in the ancient footsteps of men who were warrior kings. And I mean, what are we walking through today? I mean, can you think of anybody that inspires you? I mean, I came to America because I was looking for a mentor. And, what do we have today? A lot of light. So it's, to me, that's what I'm searching for. It gives me longevity, and also the fact it fed me so that when I came back to play Tony or Andre Dimera, I was full.
Yeah.
Did I get into trouble? A few times. But, I'm always searching for that as well, because that's when good things happen, material.
Yeah. What made you, because when listening to it, it reminded me of radio days where, it was like, television on radio, and you heard the sound effects and the actors and things like that. What made you want to present this story and this narrative in this way during this time? What inspired you to do that?
Well, last year, when I realized what the trilogy was about, the third one was going to be about the discovery of bringing Ulysses home after 3,000 years. We also thought it was in an island that exists today called Ithaca. And then this scholar called Crawshaw and Biddlestone from England realized that when they were standing in this valley, that it seemed almost like it was a fake valley. It didn't seem real. And then they discovered through doing the geography of the area that between the 4th and 6th century AD, an earthquake happened that was so huge that an entire mountain came down and brought 2 islands into one. And so the Ithaca the real Ithaca that Schliemann was looking for, and that Biddlestone found, is Homer says it's the furthest out west. And so I was invited to go over, and I spent an entire day climbing up and down this mountain, with this wonderful man called Crawshaw, and I followed in the footsteps of the Odyssey, and we're sitting in a restaurant above the mountain overlooking the ocean. And he said to me, "See that bay? That's called Forcas Bay. That's where Ulysses came home." So, when you get all these images and everything, it's, how do you fill your life up? Having done a soap wasn't enough substance for me. I had to, how do you become a storyteller? And the reason why, someone said to me, because I've done one-man shows, you should tell these stories. And I would tell them in one-man shows. And then they become more elaborate as I discovered more. But there's something about being in a room with no makeup, with no cameras, and you have a microphone, and you're telling a story that somehow you within yourself, as a discoverer, has experienced, and it's like finding your own treasure, and there's something quite unique about that experience. I don't think a lot of actors do this. Some people go into politics, some people do whatever. This was what I found the most, because I always wanted to be an archaeologist when I was younger, but I got into the acting. But this still is part of my resume in my life, and it continues. And then I realized it gives me something to do as I'm getting older. I don't have to go and audition. I can create my own material. And so I wrote a book called Places, and a lot of those chapters are about discovering the ancient world. And so so the fourth chapter is really about how I found the idea when I was in Alexandria, when I went to a mosque, and when I walked in, the man said to me, there was a big hole in its center, and I said, "What happened?" And they said, "Oh, we were cleaning the floors and it just collapsed." And he says, "Do you want to see what's underneath?" And so I climbed down from 21st century Alexandria within 10 seconds down a ladder. I was now walking in first century Alexandria. All these tombs in this abyss. So it's those experiences that, to me, I come back and I feel full, and I find life exciting. And you're given a role sometimes. The writing is terrific, but you make whatever you can out of it, and that's part of it. They give you a shell, and you fill it up.
Tim, can I ask, when you were just describing being in a room and sort of being in darkness, no makeup, and just telling a story and exploring it, did you know the podcast was going to be that for you? Or is that something you discovered while doing it? Like, did someone sort of present the idea and you were like, I don't know about podcasts? Or did you sort of jump in like, I'm a fan of this medium, I know it, I know I can do this? Or how was that?
Well, someone said, the voice I have today it's not the voice I was born with. I mean, in my 20s when I was broke, I couldn't go to a teacher. And so I started to develop my own voice by trying different levels down as deep as I could. I had studied what Olivier had done to his voice when he was doing Othello. And so I started to do the same thing. When I went into the room, I didn't know, I didn't write all this material with the idea of a podcast.
Okay.
But as when you're telling stories, if you know what it is, when you're around a table and someone's telling a story, the trouble is they have too many bridges when they're telling a story, and so the interest drops. So how do you tell a story and have people interested? And those who interrupt, you just remind them that you haven't finished. And so it's because people like to, they can't stand you to take much attention. I'm sounding like Tony right now, but yeah.
There you go.
No, but I totally understand that, because when I started listening to the podcast and starting to hear the sound effects and things like that, I'm a very visual person. So when I hear things, I am immediately transported or taken into what's being presented. And so for me, I enjoyed that because I felt like, I can hear the story, but I'm also can make my own visuals to it. Because just without any sort of sound effects or anything like that, you are just kind of listening. But I think that's an added bonus for me.
Another dimension.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you add to it?
Yeah.
That makes it more exciting. I mean, when you listen to Sean Connery, for instance, when he does Ithaca,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's the poem that was written by Cavafy in Alexandria, Egypt. And when Jacqueline Kennedy died, she wanted that recited at her funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear Sean Connery doing it with Vangelis playing the music in the background
Mm-hmm.
and that wonderful voice, so that when I went to Alexandria, I went to Cavafy's house. And when I walked in, Sean Connery was reciting this poem. And so it was so exciting to listen to it. He understands language. He knows how to play language. And he knows the subtlety of telling a story because he's realizing he's holding his audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's one of the lovely things about another dimension in this industry of ours is constantly changing and not allowing it to always get ahead of you. You know, how do you know, because they try to put you in a box, so you have to out-create them. That's what my teacher used to say. When they're taking you for granted, out-create them.
Yeah.
Not heard before.
Yes. Thaao, has this journey inspired you? I know there's supposed to be three there are 3 chapters to this podcast. Has this journey four has this journey you've taken the last couple of years to somewhat condense into this podcast? Has this inspired you to continue into the podcast journey because you have the voice, you have the time and the knowledge to go searching for this information? Has this inspired you to go into maybe subsequent series?
You know, yes, yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah, it's you have to keep adding. You know, to me, life's not over until you decide it's over. I mean, I know we all have a destiny to fulfill. I see so many people unfulfilled because they didn't follow their essence. And how do you understand it? Because life's an arc, and in the end of it, in your last renaissance, which I'm in, is you turn around one day when you can see the arc and you realize how many unfulfilled people there are, how they didn't take the time to develop. They wanted it to be an easy way out. It's like today, you know, very few people. I mean, even Deirdre would say to me, "Aren't you scared? You're in Turkey right now. I mean, is it safe?" I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I don't think about those things. And so the fourth stage of this odyssey of mine is about why I chose to tell these stories. And one is because they tried to kidnap me at the pyramids. Another was Hezbollah pulling me out of the car in southern Lebanon, thinking I was an Israeli spy and throwing me against the wall. So I tell these stories because I think they're unusual stories, but at the same time, they, you know, you keep adding a bead to the necklace until it's complete. I think, to your question, I love romantic stories. And so there are some fantastic stories about, like, you know, the Romeo and Juliets of life, you know. There are such great stories to tell that people don't even know they exist because basically they're looking at TikTok and it's, you know,
yes,
in it. I mean, some of it's entertaining, but it doesn't sustain.
Yeah, the Helen in Paris was the original.
Right, right. Helen, yeah, and then they did the movie Troy and screwed up the history of it. You know, there's just so many stories to tell, and so I've decided that if this continues, then I'm going to look at my book Places and some of those stories I've told, what happened to me in Casablanca, and also to explore those areas of love stories. And because they're always tragic, you know. That's why Days is so successful because, well, it was about unrequited love at one point. I don't know what it's about these days because it never has any endings. And so, but yeah, it's, you know, I'm kind of, I thought, oh, if I had been going back on Days now, I wouldn't have been able to complete these. So I have to look that life does prepare you for things if you're listening.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's exciting. And so look at you, all young people. You've got so much to look forward to.
Well, I will put this into perspective. Before that, I will put this into perspective for those who want to be inspired by Thao's world travels. Because I have done this, if you look up the U.S. government actually has a site dedicated to the most dangerous, basically no travel advisories of the state, and our country is not exactly on that list as well compared to other countries.
When you're in the Middle East, aren't you scared something's going to happen?
Yes. Yes. When you realize that the ratings for France are basically the same as Turkey, then you're like, maybe not so scary.
Yeah.
To me, it depends on what you carry with you. If you're looking for trouble, that's what you're going to find. For me, it's about what you carry within yourself. Why do people pay attention to one person, not the other? I think it's in the light you carry, by what you represent and how you've lived. And so, I think at this stage, I'm thinking, well, do I go back to Australia? No. What has happened is I've written with Cherry. We've written a script on the story of Schliemann and the great love story, and we've developed it into a script. So we just got word that they liked it very much, but they want some changes. So I'm thinking, okay, I can see that I'm not retiring soon, and so there is other things to do. And thank you for bringing me in so we can talk about these things, because sometimes you need to talk about these things, because there are people sitting at home waiting for something to happen, and it doesn't happen that way. You know what I mean? You don't cook your meal, you're not going to eat. And,
this is very true. I know firsthand. Thaao, with so many of your travels, is there a moment or a thing that you recall or can remember that was the most fascinating or the most memorable moment of any trip that you've had, whether you discovered something that was very interesting that you hold on to, or just just a moment where you just found so fascinating? What was that moment and where?
I spent 2 weeks exploring the areas of where the Holy Family escaped Hareld for fourth year of life. And there are 8 sacred places up and down the Nile. So I got a guide, and a friend of mine came with me. And we were exploring where they hid because I remember going into St. George's Church in what they call Babylon in ancient Cairo. And I remember the monk looking at me and called me over. He said to me, "You're Greek?" And I said, yes. Let me show you something special. Now, I didn't ask for this, but when it happened, he lifted a grate. He took me down the spiral staircase, and I went down, 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 and there was a spot where the Holy Family hid for 3 months from Hareld, where she had created a well where the water is still running today. And I'm taking photographs, and this friend of mine said, "Thaao, can we just sit for a moment and just take this in? We may never pass this spot again, but look at how we got here." So it's those moments that are not expected. And there I was, splashing myself with all this holy water. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is where they hid for 3 months. And so that was a really incredible journey. And I wrote about that. And that's one of the stories I will tell, and what happened along the way. Where I came, I stopped, I saw this kid with this humongous buffalo, and I said to my driver, "Stop, stop, stop, stop." And I came out, and I wanted to take that photograph of this kid that was so diminished with this buffalo. It was so huge along the Nile. And I ran out, I said, "Please." The kid ran away. He let go of the buffalo. The buffalo started running up the Nile, and the kid's screaming. And then his father and the whole village comes down, wondering what's going on. And I said, "Oh my God, I didn't mean to upset the kid." But he'd been watching television and he thought that I had stuck to kidnap him.
Oh.
Oh no.
And I couldn't tell you what that moment was like when I saw that kid shaking, that I created a fear in this boy. So all I could do was take some money and put it in his hand.
Oh dear.
You shook it. You shook that boy, but I'm sure he's fine now. I'm sure.
Oh yes.
He's okay.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
That was,
or who knows? Maybe he's telling the story of this one time he was riding a buffalo and someone jumped out and
tried to kidnap him.
Tried to kidnap him and gave him money.
His father saved his life. Father was the hero. And they'll say, how stories change, and then they'll eventually get and say, what happened to the guy who tried to kidnap you? He's in jail. And so, people will, how stories get, they become more than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thaao, what do you hope that people tuning into your podcast, The Lost Treasures, what do you want them to take away from just hearing, this tale? Like, what do you hope they experience through this?
For a lot of people who don't travel, either because they can't afford to, also because maybe sometimes the interest or the idea of going that far to explore, because they don't know what they're going to explore because they haven't read stories of ancient heroes.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about this is that the idea was to take people with my voice and with my writing and take them into a story. If they'd heard it before, maybe it had a different essence to it than it was before, or something they didn't know about the story that they thought they knew. And that's what storytelling is. It's why people like, the great Olivier's and Orson Welles, when they told stories, the audience was entranced because they trusted the person was taking them into an arena that had its own, basically, that's why I call it The Lost Treasures. It has its own treasure. And so each story has its own treasure for me. And it's like sharing with an audience things that I found worthwhile to pass on. That's why in the old days, grandfather used to sit around with the children and tell them stories about life. And that always remained. We don't do that as much anymore because, we give the kid a phone or put them in front of the television. But in my old days, what made it, what made radio great was we allowed ourselves to imagine. And when you imagine, you broaden your own perspective of who you are. So that's how we grow. We grow by listening to others who've had experiences, and then we make it our own.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's hoping that people will say, I want to go and hear what the next one is, because each story became more interesting than the other. And so it's, it's been a privilege, actually. It took, a lot of years of exploration to come to this point. But in the end, I had something that had gravitas to it. It's not a shallow story. But the reason why these stories have lasted for centuries is because we imagined that these men, these ancient heroes, walked those lands and made a difference. That's why they've remained. And my job is to keep them going, keeping them alive, by telling a new audience something they may not have known.
And that's exactly what you're doing with this, because you're right. A lot of people don't get a chance to travel or don't get an opportunity to experience things, through the discovery of someone else. We can, back in my day, it was encyclopedias and like actually going into the library and finding a book. But when you actually can talk to someone who or experience it through someone that has been there and has, seen it, you get a different perspective and a different point of view through their eyes, rather than just, reading a book that was maybe written, centuries ago and trying to understand and be in the moment. I think it's a different experience that you're definitely providing for people, which is fun
Yeah,
and
and there's
interesting.
so many great stories. People don't even know what's out there. You have to
No.
explore everything. You know, the more
Yeah.
you explore, the more you understand why you're here.
Mhm.
It gives you a reason to want to. You know, it's healthy because it sustains you. You're building a foundation of what you're walking on for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you know, there's one of the stories I want to tell is about the last dauphin of France. I mean, it's just such a wonderful mystery that when I've told the story, people go, "Oh my God, I didn't know that." So those stories are out there to discover.
Yeah.
My job
Yeah.
is to write them and tell them as best I can, and hopefully come on board and have these discussions. Even though I'm jet lagged, look at this.
He's invigorated. Yes.
You look great. You
Mhm.
look great as always, Thaao.
Yes.
Jet lag or no jet lag, you look great.
Walk the path that you haven't, that you're afraid to.
Can I ask, when you travel, is the goal to always learn and explore and enrich, or like has Thaao ever gone on a vacation to lay on a beach, or is that not really you, or is that peaceful, or is that so?
I've done that. You do that in your youth and all that. You know,
Okay.
what's another suntan? It only fades. But experience. So, you know, the things I remember well are those things I wasn't afraid to walk through.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, even when I was in ancient Cairo, and sometimes I'll just stare at people because as an actor, I want to see their character, what they're about. And I remember staring at this big guy, and I'm thinking, I wonder if he's secret police. Turns around and catches me looking at him, and then he looks around and looks at me again and watches that I'm still staring at him. And he gets so furious that I'm looking at him that he turns around and lifts his jacket and shows me his gun. You know, it's those little moments that to me is like, oh my God, look at that. I actually affected somebody. You know, you know, I don't mind disturbing the peace sometimes, but you know, it makes it part of the adventure.
Yeah. Thaao, we have a few questions from fans who are watching live as well in our chat room, and one of them is from Christian Me World 2, who asks, have you proposed some awesome story ideas to the Days writing team based on your adventures around the world?
Well, I wrote a teleplay, and I had shown my producer 3 pages of it, and they were very excited. Could you finish this? So I did, and now they're gone. So I'm probably finding another way in with it because I wrote it for the characters. Sure, it's I like, you know, I like mysteries, you know, and I remember my producer saying, "We're running out of stories. If you've got any stories," I said, "I have a whodunit."
Wow.
So, you know, all these ads, I didn't think, you know, in my last renaissance that I would be writing. I always thought, well, you know, I'll just enjoy my life and, you know, go to my family or do whatever and spend time with my friends, but that's not what's happening. So sometimes what we presume is not actually what happens. And so you've got to trust the process. And yeah, because, you know, I mean, why have my characters lasted for 41 years?
Yeah.
Is because I kept feeding them. Not what it's what you represent, even though sometimes Calavati thought that I was too deep. And then I thought to myself, does he realize how long it took to become this deep?
Yeah. Through all your experiences and travels and just life and continuing to as you say, feed yourself and your characters, of course, you know, you just continue to add layers and layers and layers. So
it's the secret to any longevity in life is that you keep being curious and interested in things you still don't know about. And that is endless. You know, how many books can you read? Well, there's thousands, millions of them. And those stories sustain themselves because someone took the time and was interested in what they lived and how they explored life, and then they wrote it and for us to read. And so we're very blessed in many ways, but no, we're consumed with all that shallow stuff. Go on.
Well, now when my mom used to call that being nosy. So now I can say, Mom, I was just feeding myself so that I can become a better person. She's probably watching now, actually. So
She's in the chat room, so
she's in the
she's
chat
here
room.
now,
So
yeah.
Well, I'm very proud of you. I mean, you are a great personality, I have to say.
Oh, thank you, Thaao. See,
He's
you
an
guys, he does like
entertainer.
me.
He's an entertainer, is what he is.
Oh, he really is. I mean, he's got a great personality. I mean, listen, who knows why we come into this life and what we do with it? That's the important thing. How do you contribute? And where it's not just about you. You reach a point where it's enough about you. Let's talk. But people, there's just too much narcissism. And I remember one time in class, Milton looked at an actor after he'd finished a scene. He says, you have the arrogance of a loser. And I never forgot that. And so I wrote a short story, and then it was published in Soap Opera Digest.
Well,
You never know.
and I hope you took that and framed it and gave it to him.
No, I told him the story, and he didn't realize it was about him. I try to be subtle.
Oh.
Acknowledge, that was me, but he never did.
Oh,
Kind of
well.
looked at me like, that sounds familiar.
Can we call that hubris?
I think we have one more question for you, Thaao, and it comes from actually two. Here's a good one. This is from Stacey Armstrong, who asks, would you ever consider directing an episode of Days? You have a great improvisation skills playing Tony, and we'd love to see some of your creativity behind the camera.
I'm moving.
Have you ever?
It's going to go out.
Have you ever considered that?
People have told me about directing in that. I know a few actors have tried, but the idea of going to all these no.
It's a different muscle. It is.
It is, and it's a lot of work. And let's face it, daytime is so fast. I don't know how anyone gets any satisfaction anymore because we are given less and less time to create. And it's about moving fast. I mean, it took a whole day to do one show. Do you know what that was like? The luxury I realized that we had in doing it. And now we're shooting 2-3 shows. I remember shooting 11 shows in a week.
Wow.
So what do you satisfaction of that? It's like someone giving you a piece of chocolate and taking the rest. There's no, or it's like, you're making love and there's no orgasm. It's like everything is shortchanged. You go home and you always never satisfied. You're always at the edge of something. But I could give a few suggestions to some actors sometimes, but they never appear.
I'm sure that went over very well.
It wasn't very successful. The arrogance, but listen, when I first came on Days, I was not popular. I mean, suddenly this ethnic guy comes in and they're saying, with all these white boys, and they're saying, who is that? And so I had to, I couldn't remember my lines. I was just so nervous. When I came on, there were still cobwebs in the scenes, in the scenery. And so, but, you learn to adjust. And there are some actors I will never forgive for what they did to me in my beginnings. You must be kind, because I remember I did a show, a nighttime show, and I remember someone did something to me which was not ethical. And when I went to say my lines, I got really nervous. And years later, they saw me and they stopped and they'd heard that I had told this story about them. And I said, you were a great teacher to me, because when someone comes on our show, we make sure that they're comfortable, that they feel part of the family, because it's such a quick medium. And I said, I want to thank you for giving me that lesson. And I walked away and I let them stand there. The star it was. So, everything's a lesson to me.
Oh yeah.
Don't waste it. Use it, but don't be negative about it.
Yeah,
Don't be angry about it.
Well, don't carry that negativity with you. It does you no good.
No, it doesn't for anybody. I mean, a lot of people come. Daisy's always been a good set. But when everything changed when we went through a COVID for everybody in our lives, trust, and we ended up being by ourselves a lot of the time because we couldn't go out. We didn't know who to trust. We didn't know much about the disease. But what we had to end up doing was looking within, and a lot of people found out who they were or didn't know who they were, and they got scared and angry. So it's all part of the realization of self as you go through life is what we carry with us. What are the great things? And then feel fortunate enough to be able to be an example to people who are coming before you, so that in many ways they inspire you. That's why we have mentors. We have mentors because they've come before us and they know more than we do if we listen and be respectful of people who are older. And I'll always remember this teacher, Stella Adler. You have to understand who the person is you're talking to. If they're older, there's a certain tone. When they're younger, there's a different tone. When it's another tone. So if you don't know these, how do you differentiate so that the audience understands what the relationship is? So it's all those things that to me is a continuum of the life process.
Yeah. Well, Thaao, we always love when you come on, and we're very happy that you have once again shared your travels with us, not only first through the book Places, but now in this podcast. So thank you for continuing to share with us. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. You've been really. I hope I answered your questions.
You did, and I had questions. Did you hear those? I had questions for you.
No, you should have said I didn't even have an essay.
No,
quickly. I have a friend. When they're conversing with you and they see someone's not listening, they said, "Please, please, please listen because I have questions after." So, I would ask you guys questions, but
we'll be here all day. You need to get some sleep.
Yeah. Well, next time we'll turn the tables. We'll have you on, and you can ask us some questions.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that'd be good. Actually,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd like to do that. I'll probably surprise you all. I do my homework.
Oh,
God. With your exploring, we may not want that.
You've been great, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you all who are watching, make sure you find Thao's The Lost Treasures on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. And also make sure you follow him on social media. The Lost Treasures at Lost Treasure Pod on Instagram, LST Treasures Pod on X, which is formerly Twitter, and Lost Treasures Podcast on Facebook. And of course, you can find Thaao on Instagram, which is at Thaao Penghlis on Instagram and at Thaao Penghlis on Twitter, which is now
everywhere. All right.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it nowadays.
And the next episode is coming out this week, right, Thaao?
Yeah. There's a curse in this that is. Well, you find out what the curse is. Really,
oh my gosh!
Quite a story.
Oh.
But it's a great story because that treasure is the greatest, one of the greatest treasures ever found.
Yeah. Well, you guys make sure if you haven't caught up already and listened to episode 1, make sure you do that now because on Tuesday a brand new episode drops. So make sure you all tune in.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Thaao. Thank you for coming on. And I hope to see you soon. And I can't wait for that dinner.
I promise.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to it.
All right. Is there anything you're allergic to?
No, but if I am, I guess we'll discover it there.
Oh. Well, it's certainly not going to be pizzas.
Pizza rolls. No pizza rolls.
No pizza rolls as appetizers?
Oh, I have appetizers. For you. I have special. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
So much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. I love having Thaao on. He's always so much fun.
Oh my God, could listen to him talk for hours.
I wish
Yeah,
he
that's
was
what-
like like when I was in college and like going through my required histories and stuff.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Like if he had been the professor, I probably would have absorbed a lot more than I did, because he's
Oh,
so
yeah.
engaging when he speaks, and just is so like you hear him speak and you're like, this is a knowledgeable authority on whatever subject he's talking
Well, they
about, and
have
yeah,
to
you just
make
kind of
it
get lost in it.
You have to,
And it's
yeah,
teachable.
you have to have a teacher, an orator, yes, I think that's the right word. You have to have a teacher who's both knowledgeable and is a good orator, and he just has the voice and the presence
Mhm.
for it.
But it's also
Yeah.
very interesting to have someone that you know, I mean, wasn't there obviously when it happens, but has gone there to see where it happened, you know, and can be able to share that experience. It's completely different than having a teacher reading from a textbook or telling you to read it. I mean, me and Cliff were great friends in college.
Same.
Cliff and Spark, you know, I was like, I ain't got time, honey, I got things to do. So we gotta get through these quickly. Just give me the highlights. But having Thaao, you know, share his knowledge of what he knows and what he's discovered and where he's been, it's a different experience. So you all please make sure you go and support him. And you know, if you have social media, share it. Even if you feel like, but I only have just a few people, it's fine, because it only takes one person to discover something to allow other people to discover stuff as well. So make sure you all go and check that out. And now we have a whole week of days to talk about. So what did you guys think of this week's episodes of Days?
Do we really?
We do. We still have to do that. We can't be like, all right, bye everybody, that was great.
No, in terms of context, do we really have a whole week to talk?
We can be brief on some things.
Yeah, brief on some things and expand on some other things.
Yeah,
Right.
That's kind of
So
info week for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, it was a bit, you know, it was a decent week. I you know, I didn't find myself looking at my phone as much as I usually do. Well, most of the week. There were a couple episodes where I was like, but you know, it was a decent week. And I just, you know, and having Louise Sorel back, like her scenes, like you want to watch them all. You know, you don't want to. And I just, you know, she's one of those actors, and we'll get into like the specifics when we talk about it, but like that just, it kind of like completes the show. You know, you're like, oh, Vivian's here.
There were a few people like that this week who are like, okay, this is what I want from you.
Yeah.
Give me this, and I'm happy as a clam.
For me, it was very like, I feel like the only way to are you eating?
Sorry.
Not you, not you eating.
I'm listening. I'm listening. Right.
For me, it was very much like I'm really wanting to see where this is going to go. There were a few setups with things, and it's just like, okay, all right, we're gonna see. Well, speaking of seeing, we are now going to dive deep into this week's. Well, I don't know how deep into this week's episodes of Days. Our favorite part. Well, besides our segments, it is now time to start Dishin Days. Wow, we can do it.
We never know until we hear the playback, though.
Well, this is true.
I was gonna say, I know it's never for me. I never hear us do it all together.
Yeah.
But
I think you all will be proud of this time.
Of this one, okay. Is this the keeper?
This is the keeper. This is the keeper. But quick question for y'all: ever hear of good behavior?
I just later in the week when she said that line, like the proper response when Vivian Alamain says, "Have you ever heard about good behavior?" The response should be, "Have you?" Or there should be some like, at least Kristen, like I expected Kristen to like fire back because Kristen and Vivian have a history, but
That's true.
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
It's I think everyone's just very surprised that Vivian Alamain got out for good
On
behavior.
good behavior, yeah. Well, and like the you know, she made a comment last week. The character made a comment, was like, "God bless our justice system," and then Julie made a comment this week about, and that's why this, you know, our justice system is effed up or whatever her
Needs to be reformed.
needs to be reformed.
Yeah.
So and you know, the mention of, oh yeah, Lonnie's still rotting in
Statesville.
jail for
that
self-defense, you know.
that was such a dig. That was just like
It's Vivian. What?
no. Well,
It
here's
is
the thing.
Vivian, but it was still just it was just
Yeah,
like,
it was low. Yeah, there were several parts like Vivian was Vivian, but then there were several parts. It's like I want to love watching Vivian, and then there were several parts where I was like, I did actually want to strangle her through the screen. When she mentioned Lonnie and the twins, I was like, oh, don't you dare. And then when I saw she made Maggie cry, and I was like, how dare you make Maggie cry?
Well, it's just frustrating to have someone come out of nowhere and say, we are still legally married, meaning her and Victor are still legally married. The will was destroyed, and now she's taking over the Kiriakis estate. Like, you know, that's a lot for someone to handle. And on top of that, the second love of your life has now died.
Yeah.
Like,
this is number 2 for Maggie. Like,
yeah.
How many years ago did Mickey pass away? Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah, so it's a lot. But for me, this storyline is still very like, I can't believe that Victor Kiriakis would not cross his T's and dot his I's. There is no way in the world.
And yeah, there's still a lot we don't know. So but yeah, because nothing aligns up with what we know about Victor. He would have made sure, like, and I think they made a comment, like, if there was anyone he would make sure he is so stone cold divorced from, it's Vivian.
But also, like my grandmother would say, something ain't right in the buttermilk. And something is not right. Something seems very off and something seems very strange. And I have to also say this. I feel like Teresa knows something, because it's very odd that she wants to join Brady and Alex on this trip to Greece. And even, I mean, just
yeah,
even,
I didn't get that, but
no, it's okay. If 2 + 2 = 4 and 5 + 5 = 10, please explain to me why Teresa all of a sudden pops up in Salem and all of a sudden is flirting with Alex and all of a sudden ends up in Greece with Brady and Alex, which is not to get with Brady. And you definitely ain't going all the way to Greece for some new booty. I mean, I know that Alex is fine.
Honestly,
but
I would not, honestly, like, I was like, that tracks with Teresa. She would come back to Salem, use a funeral to try to get D'd down by her ex. Then when he rejected her, she tried to get D'd down by his, however they're related. Don't know how they're related. Cousin. Don't know if they're related. Don't care. She's just after the D. And yes, I do believe that she would she would go on a 10-hour flight to get some new D.
I don't know. There's just something.
Yeah.
There's something.
I could be wrong, but I just don't think I don't know. Teresa's not the kind of character I feel that I don't know, thinks that far ahead, or is that like, I mean, she's devious, but she like diabolical like that. I could be wrong.
Don't think she's diabolical, but she's sneaky. No way did she come to the funeral just to support Brady. She knows something.
There's something, because Teresa, and someone was like, Tony, do you know Teresa? I absolutely do. I'm kind of remember her, but it's very Teresa, but it's Teresa calculated. Like, she knows something. Yeah. Like there has to be a reason why she's doing what she's doing. So I thought Teresa wanted to hang out with 2 guys. Ain't nobody trying to do, like, it just, from her initial arrival in Salem, it's been a little odd. Like, something just hasn't added up for me. I don't know about anyone else. Please comment if.
It's just not, you know what? And I guess I took what was happening for face value.
Yeah.
But there could very well be. I just wasn't giving the character enough credit.
Yeah. Well, I want people to comment what you think. Do you think that Teresa came with a plan and a purpose, or is she just going along? Please share your thoughts about Teresa, because and for me it wasn't until like this week when she arrived in Greece, and I was like,
yeah,
I just took it as, why are you so thirsty? That's what I took it as. But
I always hoped
you know,
there was more.
I maybe should have looked beyond that. But
no, I'm kind of with you, Tony. Last week I wouldn't have said that she's involved somehow, but then this week there was just something. There was like something a little different that I felt like it was like, oh wait, why are you here, or why are you this enmeshed in this storyline? And it doesn't have to be something nefarious. She could know some. She could know something that maybe she doesn't know she knows, or like she may have gotten a hint of something somehow. So it's not that I don't think she, took down Victor's plane or anything like that, but I think she is involved somehow, some way with something involving Victor in this plot line. I do think that, yeah.
But what is Lotharius?
Nefarious.
Her.
Like,
who's that?
Like devious,
Sneaky, devious,
devious,
evil-minded.
Got it. I mean,
someone get Tony the excuse me, thesaurus.
I mean, listen, I'm not opposed to learning. So whenever I say who is a big word has been used, I don't know what that means. Define it and then keep it going. So that way,
get the dictionary app on your phone.
Or just say evil-minded.
No.
Who in the comment section knew what nefarious was? Anybody? Great.
Who's nefarious?
Who is nefarious? Sometimes you got to break it down for the people who are breaking it down.
Break it down.
I did enjoy the scenes. I was happy to see that there was a scene with Teresa and Andrew, because when Colton Little came on as Andrew Donovan, we all were hoping for Teresa to come in because they are brother and sister. But even that was weird. Like, is it just like that interaction was kind of like, something's going on here. Something's
now
going
that you mention it, there was, because the way, don't want to call him Colton, Andrew was like, I'm here to see family, and he kind of like said it kind of snarky, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I took something away from that, but
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
But also there wasn't a lot of
it was almost like, oh, you're here, what do you do? You're not supposed to.
I have a theory. I have a theory, but I'm not going to share it until next week, because I think it'll be revealed next week based on Friday's ending. Okay,
so make sure you write it down and reconfirm with us next week.
Yeah,
because also there wasn't excitement to see, like, he didn't go, Teresa, hey. It was kind of like,
see, I thought
Teresa.
That was I assumed that was their way of telling us that they see each other regularly, because she's in LA.
I thought you meant we see each other.
Oh no. I thought that's what that was, when it wasn't like a big reunion. It was more like, hey girl, like, and then he mentioned something about they talk on the phone all the time or something like that. So I assumed that's what they were trying to convey. Like, these two, they're brother and sister, but they're not strangers. They see each other regularly, or they talk a lot.
Not strangers, but like, okay, we do this weekly, right? But if I saw Michael Mattis like at a restaurant, I'd be like, Michael Mattis. Tried it. You know what I mean? Like it. It's not me. It's not me.
Just kidding. I would say hello.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's like it's like a, not like a, because you go to someone's house and you don't expect your sister to be there. You know what I mean? So
that's true.
I don't know. So it was just weird. But it was fun to see Teresa and Stephanie interacting, and I didn't realize like they had such a such a bond with each
And
other and so
Teresa-
many memories with each other.
They grew up together in LA.
Yeah,
That's
in LA.
their backstory is that they grew up together. I think
Yeah.
they're probably the only two cousins that actually grew up together.
Yeah, because when Kim and you know, time wise, it makes sense because when Kim and Shane were divorced, and then Kayla was widowed. Yeah, Kayla moved out, and yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's just there's a lot. There were a lot of moments
Things that
with
make
this.
Mhm.
Things
Or-
that make
or-
you go,
Or like you said, Tony, maybe he was expecting to see Teresa. Maybe it just wasn't at Alex's place.
At Alex's house, yeah.
Yeah, that might have been the thing too. Yeah.
I mean, I love how no one was saying anything about the fact that he was doing all this in a towel.
Would you?
I mean, he's
Would
in
you have
a
a problem
towel
with
like
that?
half the time, so
I mean, I would have been like, you know, knock. Oh. Bad
You know-
time?
There may be some because also like, why was he going to see Alex? Why not just see Brady? You were already going to see Brady. I think there's something there too about him specifically going to Alex's house because he was
Saying.
already going to see Brady. His whole point of being there was, well, he said was, we'll talk about this later, but the grandfather, you're already going to see Brady as it is. So
That's
maybe
true.
there's something there, I think, too, about
Something
going to Alex's apartment.
Something is making me put on my Law and Order hat and
Yeah.
trying to figure out this mystery because there's something
Dun, dun.
going on.
it's a mystery.
It is. Side note though, I really, really wish we could explore Andrew and Paul more.
I know.
I feel like there's so much there that I hate that I hope they're going to stay on the canvas for a while. I don't think that they are, but when I saw them together, I was like, I need to know more about them. And most importantly, where is their friend Terrence who lives in San Francisco?
He's in San
Who?
Francisco.
He's working. He's got
He's in
gigs.
San Francisco.
It's so funny because when Paul was like, he even came to my Pride parade, and I was like, I was there. I was there.
That was your
I remember
entrance to come through the door, Tony. That was
Yeah.
your thing.
Can you
And I
imagine if
brought my
like
friend Terrence along too to meet you.
like all of a sudden it's like not woo, child, y'all got me out here with these bags and stuff like, oh hi everybody.
Are you gonna get you a scene with Dick Van Dyke, huh?
With DVD. I'd be like, what up, DVD?
Bite your tongue. The full name.
DVD in the place to be. DVD in the place
God.
to be.
Listen,
But no,
you being there makes as much sense as Dick Van Dyke being John's father, so it all goes together. You fit right in there. Terrence fits right in there. It makes no less sense than.
but all of this is going to be an interesting storyline to find out what happened with Victor's will. Vivian, what are they going to discover in Greece? What is Teresa up to? There's just a lot to stay tuned for, I
There's
think.
a lot happening in Greece.
I gotta say, if I was Maggie, you're gonna have to drag me from the house. I'm not leaving that house. When she was like, Justin and Adrian moved out last night, and I was like, really? I thought that was gonna be like the sort of shenanigans of them all being under one roof, but it looks like that's not where they're going. But I was kind of like, oh, you're gonna have to drag me from the
When
house.
Vivian did this to Kate way back in the day,
Yeah.
because when Victor had his first stroke, technically Vivian and Victor were still legally married from the fake, what he thought was a fake, whatever. But but Kate had that she was Philip's mother.
Yeah.
So then they had to co-own everything.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it doesn't look like Maggie has any legs to stand on. So she's leaving she's taking the high road and she's leaving now, not before Julie ran Vivian's foot over with the suitcase.
Loved it.
But I don't think we should count Maggie out.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, yeah, there's still so much more, as we've been saying, to unpack from this. And like we said, we don't think the Victor Kiriakis would
Wrong show.
very wrong show.
What's the
I
very
don't think
strong
the great
Victor?
Victor Kiriakis would do this to Maggie or allow Vivian or make sure he wasn't divorced from Vivian. I think maybe he was probably altering something or changing something, and unfortunately passed away before it could be done. So then the trick is figuring out what he was doing. And now this new guy who I felt like had the name Constantine I was like, wasn't that the name of an American Idol winner or contestant, Constantine?
Morales.
And I looked it up. It's very similar, but not exactly.
Okay.
Constantine
Morales.
Google it. I can't remember.
Not even anywhere near what we were thinking.
You
I
got
just
me
know
there.
I just remember this is probably the same guy that
Yeah,
wasn't this the same guy from Beyond Salem?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's nice to see him again.
Yes.
By the way, if you want to watch Beyond Salem, do it now.
Yes, because you only have 4 more days to see me as Terrence, and then it's gone.
Streamers just keep. Yeah,
I know. So you guys, make sure you go watch me.
3 days left.
4 days, right?
3 days.
3 days left.
Oh my god.
It's okay. I already ripped my episode, so I'll have it forever. But still, rip. Before we move on to the next one, I do want to give a shout out to Deborah Levitt, who gave us a $1.99 super sticker. So thank you for your super sticker, Deborah. We appreciate you. If you want to give us a super sticker, feel free to do that. We appreciate you. Okay.
In the Days YouTube page is here, right? I think in the chat.
Someone named Hourglass with the same
No.
logo as the Days of Our Lives person was in the chat, but I didn't see.
Ooh.
Days of Our Lives, if you're here, say hello.
Oh, I thought they were here
Now.
maybe earlier. Okay. No.
They could have been, and I missed them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Yes. Okay. So now that we mentioned it, yes. So if you guys want to watch Beyond Salem, you only have 3 more days to do it before it gets pulled. A Very Salem Christmas will still remain, but Beyond Salem chapters 1 and 2 will be off of the Peacock streaming service in 3 days. So relive the magic while you can for 3 days, especially Terrence in chapter 2. Okay.
Ridiculous.
So make sure you do that. Thank you, George Blackman, for $5 super chat. $5 super chat.
Not $4.99, $5.
Not $4.99, not
He gave us that
$5.01.
extra penny.
$5 make you holla. All right, and now let's go on to some reunions and bad. This is yours. What are you cackling about? What are you laughing at?
The $5 make you all.
I'm funny sometimes. Okay, so how many of us are excited that Johnny and Chanel have finally gotten back together?
Ooh, finally.
I'm not sure excited is the right word. Relieved?
Yeah.
But
That's kind of... It feels right. It feels correct.
I would like a timeline as to when she started having feelings for Johnny, because she was like, "Oh, I've been suppressing my feelings." I'm like, "Boo, since when? You have been out here living your life."
I think it was probably around the same time
reality.
EJ started caring about that his mother was dead and wanting to kill Ava after months of... the light bulbs went off at the same time, or
I think we kind of got a glimpse when her and Johnny kept ending up together and helping each other as friends. I think that, I mean, I feel like they were always there, but if they went away, they probably came back then.
Okay, if the timeline makes sense to you, it makes sense to me. Because I was like, now, how long you been trying to suppress these feelings? Because, I mean, just now, you were about to move on with Talia. Can't wait. I'm glad. Okay. Well, what?
I'm just, yeah. I mean, look, it is what it is. We're relieved. This is the way it's supposed to be. I think let's just be grateful that Can we just be grateful that the triangles have ended?
Because we don't need no more
Even
triangles.
even
no more.
Chanel was like, I'm tired of being one side of a triangle. And we're
No
like,
more.
We are too.
Yes. So hooray for Johnny and Chanel. I mean, I did feel bad for Talia, but then again, I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that because was she discovering, her path into the LGBTQIA plus community? Was she not? Was she still trying to figure it out? Is she really hurt? Did she have feelings?
Did they ever establish? Maybe I'm forgetting. Did like as a character, did she ever establish to anybody like Chanel that she was like fluid or?
No,
it was
name, yeah.
it was
She's
just
I don't
so
remember it.
inexperienced.
it was just that she
Well, maybe
has feelings for Chanel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so she was just going with it, and the fact that she's young and inexperienced probably was just a blow to the when you're young and inexperienced, it hits you a little bit harder than.
Yeah, getting dumped no matter by who sucks.
Well,
Yeah.
it depends on who. Like if it was the
No,
love
well,
of your life, sure.
well, no, but even if it's someone you
2
like,
weeks,
no, but admit it, Tony. Even if it was someone you didn't like, you would rather be the dumper than the dumpy.
Oh yeah,
every
and
time.
then you didn't do it in time, and then you're the dumpy, and then you're like,
yes. So it sucks. Yeah,
Waiting
I'm not
too long.
saying it sucks necessarily because you like the person, but it just sucks.
knowing my petty self, they would be like, "Yeah, Tony, this isn't gonna work out." I'm like, "Honey, that's fine, but just know, I made this decision before you."
And there you go. There you go.
Out. But what is interesting is what happens next.
No.
You already know when somebody looks at someone and says, "Can I join you?" It's like, oh.
Oh my god.
It's like, baby, just sit at the bar, honey, and have your drinks. You don't even know this woman. Just sit at the bar and mind your business.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were just spilling all each other's tea. Well, she cheated on me not once, not twice with Philip and Eve. I'm like, you were just truth serum, just all at the Brady pub.
No, what's so funny is it's funny because we look back and you see the setup with her talking to Belle and being like, "You're such a great lawyer. Thank you so much for helping me." And it was like, I remember when I saw that scene, I was kind of like, "Oh, that's nice." Like connecting them two and just having her say thank you and whatever. I thought, "Oh, that's a really nice scene." Of course, it was a setup for this, but when they were talking, part of me, and I noticed they didn't do this until halfway into their, I don't want to say date, but into their interaction, where I thought it was going to be she didn't know who he was. But
that's what I thought too.
Halfway into it, he started saying who he was and he started naming Belle. And I was like, okay, now she knows. But I thought it was going to go in a different direction where she didn't know who he was.
I want to be like Talia. None of this is ringing a bell that this is Belle's husband. Like,
yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go that route. But yeah.
And at what point do you just say, "Hey, you know what? Thank you for letting me vent. I'm gonna go home." Yeah. No, they're like, "Let's take it somewhere else." And now they up and let me tell you this: if you are a guest in somebody else's house, you don't bring another guest.
You don't bring trade home if you're a guest.
You already a guest. Y'all should have took it to. Well, not me suggesting where they should take it to, but y'all should have took it to the Salem Inn. It's a neutral territory. Okay, you ain't at his house where he feels like a guest right now. You ain't at your sister's house where you are a guest. You take it to the Salem Inn where it's neutral territory, where you're basically a guest of the Salem Inn.
Okay, literally everything that you guys have just said is just icky. Like there's no bright side, there's no good side, there's no understandable side, it's
What is it?
Blech. It's icky. It's just, ugh.
That's what happens when you're drunk. I wouldn't know.
No, I mean, you can be drunk and be stupid, but you be drunk and stupid with maybe an appropriate person. Everything about this is icky.
I can just only imagine that. Sorry, I'm drunk. I now have to go find a responsible non-stranger to do what I want to do next.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
So I guess it's a question of how far did they go, and maybe hopefully we'll see that this week.
I mean, when we
all we saw was them go on the bed, and
yeah,
I thought they were just making out.
we don't know. I guess yeah.
We don't know. They still had their clothes on, so.
But I mean, listen, you know, alcohol does that to you. You know, you're vulnerable and you're bearing your soul. You looking over and seeing, you know, somebody else attractive, and then you start bearing. You're right, Michael. Start bearing other souls.
Oh my God, I can't.
Well, guess what, Blanche? You can. You can. Wait, what? Jennifer and Eric were drunk and high, and they did it?
Yeah, when they got together.
Oh.
But that's
they were. I still didn't find that icky.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what decision was made next week.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you who didn't get any. Johnny. He tried. Failed. Chanel said, "Oh, hold on, Tiger." But I feel like my fellow co-hosts can probably think what I was thinking. Had it not been Chanel, I know somebody who would have been very willing. And now we move on to Wendy and her passports.
Johnny was looking good in that sweater. He was wearing that sweater.
Oh, you know what? I wonder if those were Wrangler jeans he had on. Maybe they were. Carson Bowman, if you watch this, can you let us know if those were Wrangler jeans that you were wearing in the scenes this week? Okay, anyway, yes, shout out to you have to hand it to Carson Bowman. You can tell that he has been working out and looked very fit, and pretty soon we will add him to the curve chart.
Mm-hmm.
And now Wendy and her fake passports. Mm-hmm. Did anyone else laugh when they were taking the picture?
Yeah,
I giggled because you know, I used to work at CVS, so I used to have to take those pictures all the time. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, they need like a black. Not a black, a gray or white wall,
white canvas, yeah,
to take the photo. And the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, so y'all not gonna y'all not. You know what would have been great in that scene is if Wendy gave Ava her shirt, and Tripp gave Harris his shirt. Instead of them, like I was just like, oh, so y'all just in your hospital stuff, your Bayview stuff, just.
That's what I thought too. I was like, we're not even going to attempt at somewhat of a disguise. Like I know they're not using the same names as Wendy and Tripp, of course. But I was like, Ava, you don't want to put your hair up. You don't want to like change.
Like you don't want to like, I don't know, like maybe like put your hair straight and maybe give yourself a bang. Yeah. You know, hairs. You don't want to like be like. You know, or something like something to, I don't know. I think Tony, Michael, and Justin needs to make a post their own fake passport photos and fake name. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to propose this. I'm down if y'all are down. That after this,
oh God!
You come up with whatever look you want. Take a photo in front of like, you know, something blank, and then send it, and I'll post it tomorrow. Just send me like what name you would go by and what look you would have.
To us?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you said. Like a
No, I mean don't say it now. But I'm just saying after we're done, take a few moments, grab something to make yourself like if you were going to create a fake passport, what would you look like and what would your name be? I'm already very excited to go into my little box and choose a wig.
Well, you go ahead and do that, Tony, and let us know what you come up with.
Y'all are no fun. Y'all are no fun at all. That would have been hilarious to post that later. Y'all are no fun. No
Name?
fake photo.
I could think of names, but looks, I don't know.
I mean, I suddenly pictured Araceli in a tiara and a Disney shirt, but that was also last week's look.
In a passport photo, no. That's just me any day I go to Disneyland.
I think it would be hilarious, but of course, the no fun police are
That's just
always
a day
on
at
board.
Disneyland, though.
Or you know what you could do? You could do what everyone else does and just put your hair in a ponytail. That'll make you look completely different.
Put your hair up and then you'll not detect it at all.
Oh,
The
hell no.
The Kristen method of
Oh,
disguise.
hell no. No, hell no. I vowed the day I stopped doing dance competitions that I would never again be forced into a ponytail.
Did you have a dance mom?
No.
Oh. I'm watching
No.
Dance Moms. That's why I asked.
I know. And you're and that's just
Still,
masochistic.
yes.
No.
Anyway,
I was bad enough on my own. I didn't need a dance mom to double down on.
Anyway, I'm suddenly disappointed that was a great idea to do and a social media post for do. And
Go ahead. No one's stopping you.
No,
You can do
I
it yourself.
swear.
It doesn't have to be a group event.
Y'all suck and you're no fun. Anyway, moving on to these fake passports.
You can do it for I counter proposal.
No, we're not going to do it. No, we're not going to do
Halloween.
it for Halloween because we always do our costumes for Halloween.
I was going to do that one, Chris, actually. That was going to be mine. The wheels
Which
were
one?
turning. I was like, I'm going to see Anastasia being the
Fun.
To see you in that look would have been hilarious. But can't do fun things around here unless you do them by yourself. What else are we talking about with this fake passport? Oh yeah, so they took it.
They took it. They're going.
They're trying to go to London.
I'm going to counter propose. Justin can't believe that Dick Van Dyke turned out to be John Black's father. He finds this so convoluted. You know what I find convoluted? That Susan is using her psychic powers to tell Ava that she's on another continent, and Harris is just going along with it and saying, "Okay, let's go to London."
I mean, am I the only person that thought makes sense?
No, it makes sense in the context of the show and what we know of Susan. That makes sense. The Dick Van Dyke stuff is just silly. I mean,
Okay, maybe the Susan side of it makes sense, but the Harris side of it, who just takes their word that this woman has psychic powers? He's never met this woman. I get it. If you've met Susan, you would believe it's true. But he's never met Susan. He barely knows Ava. And he's just said, okay, I just escaped a mental facility and helped another mental patient get out. Let's skip the country.
well,
I mean-
the person who's been brainwashed twice by Dimera is in.
But
Gotta be some side
also,
effects.
also, you have to go to the start of this. They didn't even have to leave Bayview.
I know.
They could have simply just said, she came in, tried to shoot me. Harris overtook her. I got the gun. I shot her in self-defense. Okay, Sada, check the tape. I'm going to bed. Can you make sure you bring me a Jello pop before I go to bed?
Bring me some pudding.
I don't know. I do love how worried EJ got to the point where he just barges in, and Jada's really looking at him like, "Sir, you almost telling on yourself."
Yeah.
Right? I feel like, when he busted in there, I was like, EJ's smarter than that. He knows. But then he covered being like, I'm her lawyer. And I was like, oh, okay. I've seen this done before.
That was weird though, because when he came in, I thought he was gonna say like, "This is so and so. She's my client. We done work together." But no, he literally said, "I saw this on the news."
He saw it on the news.
It was like,
Like
I
he's
think
sitting
she'll need a
watching
lawyer.
HCLA.
And then he went down there and I was like, wait, what? I was like, okay. I was just like, are you kidding me? That's the excuse?
I mean, and look, that was the most realistic excuse that he was going to be able to pull out of a hat in 30 seconds.
But he could have just said, she's my client. I work with her at so-and-so, or I drafted her will. Like, he literally said, I watched this on the news and thought she might need a lawyer.
I mean, yeah.
Like, is EJ's an ambulance chaser now? Like, really?
I read Deborah Bright's comment, EJ looking stupid, as EJ looking stupid. I don't know why.
Stupid.
I don't know why I did that. But that made me laugh. Yeah, I don't know. But look, Jada's not having it. Oh,
Jada doesn't have it. Jada does not believe. She's the smart one in town.
Yes.
She does not buy anybody's bull stuff.
Doogie.
Trying not to swear.
Don't be all Michael Maddis. What was anyone else kind of like when Ava was like, where were you two before this?
I know, it was like
the Salem Inn, and I wanted to be like at the Salem Inn doing it.
Popping the cork.
Oh gosh.
I mean, how do you remember your first time as also the night that your mama escaped from a mental health facility and ended up in your room? Oh, I also thought this. Can somebody please show me a blueprint of what these apartments look like? Because I thought Wendy and Tripp went to the house.
Okay.
They did, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always like, okay, when they go through the little door, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you in the living room, you see the archway, you see the door, right? Now, it looks like they made a right, and then there's two rooms. But that little door don't look like you can make a right, and there's two rooms there.
Yeah, I assume they just went straight through the door, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I wasn't paying that close of attention.
Yeah,
it's really not supposed to make sense.
For some reason, I was, and I thought to myself, I need to see the blueprint of what all of these, what the penthouse, Marlena's penthouse looks like, what the Kiriakis mansion looks like, huh?
The ever-changing penthouse that grows rooms and decreases rooms.
Right. Like, can someone please tell me how many rooms the Dimera mansion has? Because with so many people living there, like, ain't no way that there's room for them and extra rooms. I need
it's a mansion, so.
Condos that have 7 bedrooms, and you're like, wait, why would John and Marlena have a 7-bedroom condo? Like,
I just not the penthouse is like a clown car. I just would like to see the layout. I'm very curious now because I never thought I thought when you walked through the little door, like you were already like in another.
There wasn't a room. You were in a room, but no, it was like a hallway where there's like it goes.
I wasn't expecting the split hallway. Anyway, that's just me.
It's one of those where the hallway has a door for whatever reason.
Yeah, I actually have that in my place. It's the older place. The hallway has a door.
Same architect.
The days.
Interesting. All right, y'all. Well, we are at the halfway point.
Yay.
Before we get into tidbits, though, just some quick reminders. Make sure you follow us on social media. We are Dishin Days Show on Facebook, Dishin Days on Facebook. I'm sorry, Dishin Days on Instagram, formerly Twitter, X, and Threads. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you buy our merch and listen. Buy our merch, dishindays.threadless.com. And then also make sure you check us out on your favorite podcast station, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And don't forget
you can find Thao's podcast.
Yes, same places you can find Thao's The Lost Treasures podcast. And also where you can find James Lott Jr.'s soap stuff on the YouTube and all the podcasts under JLJ Media. That stands for James Lott Jr. Media.
Sponsored by Bob Evans. Just kidding.
No, you're not.
No, he and I had a conversation about on Instagram about Bob Evans.
Oh yeah, well he's on vacation now and done found a Bob Evans. So
I know he did. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have it next week." I was like, "Oh." They need to get one of those robots and like send one of those like delivery robots. Just put it on the freeway and it'll make it here.
You're obsessed with those delivery robots.
Excuse me. No. They are obsessed with me because they keep finding me. I ain't looking for them. Two mornings in a row, they just came around and found Bimby and I.
I will say in WeHo, they are very prevalent. Like I was at Mickey's and two of them passed by and I wanted to be like, I was like, where are you? I was like, first of all, I would never trust my food in this little box.
Nope.
It might be safer than other places. At least it's not being touched by anyone after it's put in there.
I'm gonna go pick up my own food. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah. I will go pick it up myself.
And for those that don't know, we're talking about in LA, specifically West Hollywood. They have robots that you put your food into restaurants,
and they have like eyes on them, so they look like
yes,
they smile in the robot.
Like it's the creepiest thing when it's the creepiest thing when they come around the corner.
And that's happened to me twice this week. Me and Vivian trying to mind our business. Anyway.
All right, so let's get into our tidbits, starting with the first one. The Pinball Wizard.
Oh my god.
I cracked. He showed me this move called the Pinball Wizard. I was like, what? It's like, where you take your
I mean, we called it. We called it. Thank
Can I just
God.
say, when Kristen was like, your husband is sleeping with your best friend, the look of,
duh.
I know. I was just like, I knew it. I knew she couldn't have been that dumb. Oh, can you? It was the relief. It was the relief of this whole time of us thinking like, Gwen, girl, you can't be that gullible. You can't be that dumb. And it was like, please God, I hope she's just playing into it, making them dig their own grave. And thank God.
She's playing the long game, yeah.
But I now want to know when she figured it out.
Yeah, there's still that question.
And how she found out. Yeah. And what's the game in it for her?
I think it was when my thought. I think it was when she may have had suspicions, but then what confirmed it was when Leo made up that story about MP Matthew Perry.
I think that's gonna go back.
And then because they had been talking about his magic penis, and I think she maybe put the M and P together, the M and the P or whatever. Then, or
was it not just knowing the phone number?
It had to have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We'll probably get the answer of when on Monday, but there were just so many very, very unsubtle things. I mean, Leo has a picture of Dimitri's abs on his phone.
Also, I'm wondering if she found, maybe not, because this probably wasn't happening then, but she could have found out about the money when she researched him, like just to show like that she's such a good reporter. Like, oh, she found out about the codicil and she knew about that already. And then the Leo stuff came later. Because like you said, why is she putting up with this? She must either know about the money or have an angle.
So you think she knew about the money before? You think she knew about the money before, like he even like proposed or they got married, or do you think she found out the money afterwards?
I'm wondering because there has to be something in it for Gwen. Like she didn't, of course, when she said it to Kristen, she didn't look pressed about it. So she's obviously putting up with this for a reason. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, Tony.
Duh, she interviewed him, right?
Yeah.
So what if, when she interviewed him, she discovered the whole thing about the fortune and everything like that. Yeah. And very early on, it became very obvious that like, duh, he needs a wife. But she was probably, maybe she found something else that was like, oh, him gay. And so she was just like, well, I'm just going to go along with this.
Or it could, like, my thinking is she found out about the money and was like, I'll marry him anyway, and that's what it'll be. Maybe I got a rich husband, or maybe whatever. I'm getting money either way. or I'm getting, I'm going to be Mrs. Dimitri Dimera and we're going to live a lavish life or whatever. And also the Leo stuff could have come after. I don't know if it was all together is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Whatever it is, she is taking the power back and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows that Dimitri and Leo are bumping.
Well, hopefully
Ugly.
not.
grinding.
What's the
Bumping
What was
purses.
Magical wands.
bumping
Playing
pinballs?
Playing swords. They are bumping and grinding. That was also a song from the Braxton Family Values. Okay, well, we'll see how that unfolds because also Gabby and Stefan have figured it out because after
This
multiple
was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah.
That part was and now he signed over shares to them? Is that what happened?
He didn't. I think that's what they proposed, but then he ran out the room or something, right?
Oh, because I feel like when we came back to them, Gabby and Stefan were out in the foyer. Is that what you call it? Foyer. Mm-hmm. And then Dimitri was off going to Leo.
Yeah.
So I took it, and I should have rewatched it, but I took it as like he signed over shares to them, like straight away.
No, I think it was like, this is what we have proposed because we know. And I think Dimitri is running over to tell Leo, like, it's starting to get a little touchy because now Stefan and Gabby have figured it out. And little does he know. Oh, because he also has to share that Kristen is feeling some kind of way too because she wasn't getting her cut.
Can't get her money, yeah.
Yeah, that was a misstep with Dimitri when he said I got expenses. Yeah. I was like, you don't have expenses that are over 20. Give her a cut. Like,
how do you spend $20 million?
Yeah,
that's an amateur in the Dimera. Yeah. That's an amateur mistake in the Dimera. Give Kristen her money and keep her mouth shut because she knows she ain't going to.
It's too late now.
I'm not crazy about the Gabby and Stefan involved in this. I don't know. There's something a little. I don't want to. Well,
unnecessary.
There's something unnecessary, and there's also a little bit of like weirdly like gay panic involved. I don't know. I know that's probably not where they're going, but it comes across that way a little bit. I don't know.
No, I think it's just the normal panic that comes from being a Dimera. You're going to get screwed over one way or the other, and most of the time it's going to be from family. It's his. I consider it his initiation into the family. Yeah. There you go. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I know that Vivian came in too.
Oh, that's right.
Vivian. I feel like Vivian is Miranda Priestley at the party where she knew no one. She's like,
I like the exchange with Dimitri. I like that. Was reinforcing the family history of
a good little history.
Yeah.
So that makes you a von Lochner and your mortal enemy. Well,
then suddenly she was sick and had to leave. I was like, what? She didn't feel what I was like, oh, Vivian's backing down to this person that whole Vivian in that scene was odd. That whole the way it went down was kind of odd to me.
Her being sick was like when something was happening and Carolyn Brady was like, oh
yes, get away from me. Was it Teresa or what's the other character?
I can't remember what it was, but she got my 3 snaps. And I remember she faked like, it's like, oops. It's like, what can I do in this moment? Fake was out. So that's what Vivian did. Vivian said,
sick.
Out. All right. Well, we'll see where that goes. Now we have the introduction of Miss Victoria Margaret, who's gonna need so much therapy after this. I love that Xander. I'm sorry, Rex and Maggie are just like they keep looking at Sarah like,
what you gonna say?
Is there anything else you need to?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's? You ain't got nothing else to say.
Can this be more obvious? Yeah.
It's just like
They're so not convincing.
No,
nobody in this lie is convincing enough. They don't trust it enough, and they don't believe it enough.
Xander just looks stupid. He's just like going around like.
No, I don't think Xander is the one that looks stupid. I think he's generally trying to be a good person, a trusting person. Y'all know who I think is stupid in this situation. And Sarah is just the biggest hypocrite.
Yeah.
Just,
that
poor little girl. That poor little girl.
Dang, no love for Sarah.
No.
Also, you're naming him after Victor as in sort of ode to Xander, really, but you.
Yeah. And
yeah,
and I'm sorry, isn't this the same man who helped Xander cover up the death of your child? You're going to deny Xander his child, but you're going to name the child after his co-conspirator.
I blame the epidural.
There was no epidural. She didn't have time for an epidural. Remember, she gave birth right on the lawn.
Ouch.
Chair.
I blame the placenta thingy.
No.
They had to give her medicine for that, so she's feeling a little.
No, because that was when she was doing the right thing. And
either way, something wrong with her.
Something's wrong with her, but had nothing to do with giving birth. Something's screwy in her normal brain.
Something's rotten in the buttermilk.
Yes.
That's what my grandmama used to say. All right, now we need to figure out. I have how many grandkids? Okay, so you mean to tell me that before y'all left Salem University Hospital, that y'all didn't walk over and get a swab to make sure that the story is connected? I mean, listen, I understand Black Patch are among the elite in Salem. There's Black Patch, there's Dr. Marlena Evans, there's Dr. Kayla Johnson, Justin Kiriakis, among the Rafe Hernandez, commissioner, the greats, Jada Hunter, the greats. I understand in the greats. But at what point are we going to just exit stage left?
Just to confirm
DNA,
everything.
just to
double confirm.
That's all we need is a confirmation before you invite this man over to your house to meet your children.
I mean, not that he was very threatening, but it would be good to just have,
Now that would be a twist if he pulled out a gun and it was like, got you.
Dick Van Dyke pulls out a gun and is like, any of you MFers move. I'll blow every last one of you, like the Pulp Fiction scene.
You dummies thought I was your father. You stupid. You fell for this dumbass storyline. I was your dad.
If he did that, took the mask off, and it was you, Lean,
and it's Kristen,
like,
right? That would be funny. That would be
what
good.
What is wrong with you guys?
That
Why
would
don't
make
you
actual
want
sense. That would make sense.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
Why can't you just let people be happy?
First of all, we are happy for people to be happy. Okay, so Araceli, if somebody just came into your life at Disney and said, "I'm your long lost brother," y'all gonna go skipping along to the Magic Castle?
No, because that's a brother, and siblings are the worst. But a nice little man who happens to be Dick Van Dyke, yeah, I'll take him.
Girl, how do you remove Araceli from this? Because you just made no sense. It's almost like she's at Disney and Carl from Up comes through with balloons.
I would love if Carl from Up came.
Then don't be mad when all your electronics and your wallet are missing the next day.
Exactly. Carl will rob you blind.
All I have to do is look for balloons then.
Don't be messaging us talking about, sorry guys, I can't do the show. My laptop got stolen.
Y'all are just so cynical and
then my little
negative Nancy's, all of
my
you.
little petty self will be like, well, look up and see if you find anything.
Negative Nancy's.
He's going up. Bye, bitch. Got your laptop. Got your wallet.
Gotcha, bitch.
Just let the wonderful Dick Van Dyke bring joy.
Oh my god.
I just want a little joy in my life. Does the Black family not deserve some joy?
Listen, sure, they deserve joy and a DNA test.
Okay, we need to send this to Ron. This one will fix this storyline for me. Dick Van Dyke's an imposter who robs them blind of their money. He's a grifter. Who said, there's this guy named John Black who doesn't know who his father is. He's had 19 different dads and moms over the years. I'm gonna roll into Salem as a card artist and take him and his wife Marlena for everything they got.
Bimby's on board.
Bimby's like, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Listen, this was a lovely moment.
It was. It was like I kept saying. I was like, oh, it's been. I said to myself, I was like, oh, it's been a while since we've had some just like straight up schmaltz.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that there's nothing sinister. There's nothing, you know, underhanded going on. It's just happy joy, Araceli, and you know, it's like, okay, good, because you know, pretty soon the family's going to be, you know, flipped upside down again for one reason or another. But I do agree, a DNA test just to confirm it, especially in Salem.
That's it.
Not a bad idea.
That's all we're asking for. Just Dana to come in and confirm things.
Enjoy the sweetness. The Black family has been through so much. They're going through so much. Can we not just have a spoonful of sugar?
First of all,
yes, I did pull out that reference.
First of all, it's not the Black family. It's the Robichaux. And the Robichaux do deserve happiness because the Blacks have been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, Robichaux. All right. So, we'll see how that goes. And that was your week of days. And now it's time for our favorite part of the show, which are our segments. And we're going to start with mine, which is Tony's official 3 Snaps Award. Oh, snap! Listen, y'all already know what my 3 snaps is. When somebody looks at you and says, I know. Miss Gwen Rizcheck.
She even went into like a deeper octave. She went, oh, Kristen.
Yeah. Because it was like she was like, now, baby, you think you got the tea, but I got the tea, honey. And I've been having the tea. You just now catching up. So Emily O'Brien, Gwen Rizcheck, Von Leschner, you get Tony's official 3 Snaps Award. Oh, snap! You better know that tea. You better drink that tea. You better have that tea, honey. I live. I'm so glad. I would have been this happy if it turned out to be EJ's baby, but I couldn't have that. But at least I was able to have Gwen know that there was some shows and shenanigans going on with Dimitri and Leo. Mm-hmm. Well, that was a good tongue pop too. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And now it's time for Caption That.
All right, this week's Caption That photo comes courtesy of Jada and EJ, or Elia and Dan. And this week's caption goes to Tyler Najir, who I believe is in the chat room, with his caption of Jada saying, "Did you just say NSYNC are getting back together?" I felt that was very timely. Yeah. And also our 1999 favorite, Elia Cantu, gave her caption, "It's Jada. Miss Hunter if you're nasty."
Hey.
I always love it. I know I can tell if I pick a picture and I'm like, oh, they're definitely gonna, like, Paul Telfer contributes. Elia is always a good sport. So I always know I'm always like secretly hoping that they will. So it's always nice when they do. So thank you, Elia, and thank you, Tyler.
Yes. And that has been
Caption that.
She's also looking like, sweetie, you not fooling nobody.
Bitch, what?
Or put it back up.
Timothy Robichaux stole. Timothy Robichaux stole. I can't do it.
He robbed them.
Please don't.
or she's looking at him like, wait, so you didn't go to the Renaissance store?
Oh. Mm.
You failed the mute challenge.
Actually, the caption is, she said, look around, everybody on mute. Okay, those are our captions. And now it's time for
Those were the days.
Taking you to September 12, 2005, where Brady and Chloe wed.
That's Rex.
Almost 20. I know, almost.
Everybody on mute, Tony.
Years ago. Almost 20 years ago, which is crazy. I gotta give it to Days. Maybe a hand clap for the fact that they've resisted putting Chloe and Rex together just for nostalgia's sake. I feel like we're always sort of holding your breath, especially when Kyle came back as Rex, to see if they were going to do that, and they haven't yet. Who knows if they'll do it in the future to take advantage of all those clips? But I don't know. I give it to them for not doing that, but. Just the fact that it's been almost 20 years since they were married and how much storyline we've gotten from them since then. And also they've come back around to each other. I think they're one of the couples that Days has not sort of overplayed them, I'll say. Like they were together for a time, they were broken up, they put them with other people for a long time and just had them as friends. It hasn't been until the last maybe 5 or 6 years that they've come back around to being romantic with each other. So yeah, I just want to mark the occasion, September 12th, 2005, where we first had Chloe and Brady's wedding when they were basically babies. Yeah.
Can we also point out that Naughty Bjorlin still looks the same?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think she looks better.
I think she looks, well, not that she looks bad there, but
that picture looks like it literally could have been last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For both of them, really. I mean,
it's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And those
were the days.
Sang it, y'all. And now it's time for
It's a gift.
And this week's It's a Gift goes to Miss Susan Banks, or the astral projection.
Yeah.
Of Susan Banks, whatever we're going to call her.
It looks as if Michael may have a different one, judging by his face. Let me just slide over here and see what Michael Mattis has.
this is what I have.
That was last week.
Damn it. Well,
well, keep talking about it.
Okay.
I can't get it. So
okay, it's basically the moment when Susan appears to Ava, and Ava asks, "So you're not really dead?" And Susan comes up with the wonderful, brilliant line of, "Duh." I'm very duh. Visualize it, people. There you go. Susan is all of us, and it's I just can't wait to have Susan, the real Susan, not an apparition, not an astral projection, back on my screen.
Aborigine.
Apparition.
Apparition. What does that mean? Spirit?
Something, quite literally something that appears. That's just what it means. Just apparate, something just appears.
Love it. And that was
It's a gift.
And now it's time for
Oh, what a week.
News and gossip.
We're starting off with a little message from one of our favorites, the lovely Rachel Melvin. She has heard all of your lovely, lovely things you've said about her small sort of guest stint this past week, the week before. She did a little video. If you haven't seen it, go to her Instagram at the real Rachel Melvin. Excuse me. She did a little message to fans, just thanking her. I think a lot of people just had such great positive things to say about her response to the day, or her episode, I should say. And she said she's definitely open for people asking. She's definitely open to coming back, and she's put it out there. So we'll see what happens if we know that Days has gone through some changes over there, and you never know. We'll see if we see Chelsea in the near future sometimes. In addition to that, she has been chronicling her cross-country road trip and cross-country move with her husband, Kevin Barrett. And just go to her Instagram, follow her stories. They're interesting. I think we told you about a year ago, her sort of interesting wedding that she had, where there was a mudslide in the middle of it, and she had to sort of regroup and kind of go on with things. So if that tells you sort of the temperament and the personality of her and her husband, they're a great couple. And this cross-country trip has had a few bumps along the way, including Rachel getting a black eye. So go check it out and go see just how, and again, they roll with the punches, and they're such a cute couple, and just go check it out. But yeah, Rachel Melvin, at the real Rachel Melvin on Instagram.
Nice.
So yeah.
Oh, there's the picture. Oh,
All
no,
right.
that's not it. That's the next one.
Yeah, well, we're to the next one. We have big congratulations for Days cast member Jordi Villasuso and his wife Caitlin. They are expecting a third baby girl in January, so a New Year's baby. We also have to say prayers because they've had 2 very public miscarriages in the past few years. So Caitlin unfortunately had to have surgery in order to be able to successfully carry to term, and so our prayers go out to them that they deliver a healthy baby girl in 2024. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Next up, we have our Day of Days we've been telling you about this year. It is happening in October, Saturday, October 21st. It's all day. It usually is. Doors open at 10 a.m. It is at downtown Los Angeles in Peacock Place at LA Live. It is free and open to the public, but they're asking people to RSVP. You can go to peacockdayofdays.com. So we've told you before, this is sort of the event to come to. And if you have the money to come and the ability to travel, please come down. It's going to be a really amazing day that has now turned into a weekend that they're starting. So definitely come check it out. It's sort of the one place you can come to sort of get the most bang for your buck, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely come check it out. Day of Days this year, Saturday, October 21st.
Yes. And if you happen to be in town the day for the weekend for a Day of Days, the following day, you can still get tickets to see the Day Players. They will be playing here in LA the day after Day of Days, Sunday, October 22nd at the Bourbon Room. Then if you can't make the trip to wherever closest state you live in. Their upcoming tour dates include Stand Up Live in Huntsville, Alabama on November 4th. November 5th is Zany's Comedy Club in Nashville, Tennessee. Next in February, the Improv Comedy Theater in Danny, Florida, February 24th, 2024, and February 25th, 2024. They will be at the Improv Theater and Restaurant in Orlando, Florida. So these are your upcoming tour dates for the Day Players. Please go to thedayplayersband.com to get your tickets. If you're in the state, just go.
Mm-hmm.
If you can drive to the state, go.
Yes. Go. We also have our Daytime Pride 24 event happening Saturday, March 23rd, 2024, National Harbor, Maryland. We have from Days Mike Manning, Colton Little. We also have Cameron Grimes and Kate Fairbanks from, I'm going to mess it, not One Late to Live, is it? Or no.
Cameron Grimes?
Young and Restless.
Cameron Grimes.
Yeah. Hosted by our very own Mr. Tony Moore. Tickets and information, go to spectrumcelebrityevents.com.
And that was
News and gossip.
And now let's find out what's happening next week on Peacock's exclusive #1 award-winning hit soap opera, Days of Our Lives.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Your mother is still alive.
You want me to sleep with you?
John didn't come home last night.
Oh, still slumming, I see.
This is the only item the ISA recovered from the wreckage of Victor's plane. We know what you've been up to.
How far are you planning to take this deception?
Days of Our Lives, streaming now on Peacock.
I told you little Miss Teresa has something to do with it.
Well, now I think she does. Now that her dad's coming and being like, "The fuck you doing?"
Wow. Interesting.
Well,
indeed.
it looks like it's going to be a very interesting week on Days. And guess what? We'll be back next Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you a full dish of what's to come this week on Peacock's exclusive #1 award-winning hit soap opera, Days of Our Lives. But before we go, please make sure you check us out on social media. Michael Mattis. Well, check us out first. Dishin Days Show on Facebook, Dishin Days on Twitter, X, and Threads. Now, Michael Mattis, if they would like to see what you are up to, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MLMattis.
I'm going to go to the people who have more than one social media. I'm just kidding.
Gosh.
Justin, where can they find you if they want to find out what's happening?
Find me on Instagram at Justin Lee Hareld.
Araceli, who reluctantly joined X, formerly known as Twitter, where can they find you?
You can
Instagram.
Instagram. I was gonna say I'm very happy on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Tia323 Araceli.
Tony, where can they find you? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can find me on all social media platforms at Lounging with Tony. Simple. Follow me. All right, you guys, that has been your week of Dishin Days. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Mom, for wishing everyone a blessed week. We will see you back here next Sunday. Tell a friend, tell your grandma, tell everybody that you know. Special thanks to Thaao Penghlis for coming on. And don't forget, make sure you go and support Thaao in his podcast. Michael Mattis, can we have that info pop back up? Make sure you follow him and find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. And also make sure you follow his podcast, The Lost Treasures, on Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh, and make sure you follow Thaao Penghlis at Thaao Penghlis on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next Sunday for another full dish of Peacock's exclusive Days of Our Lives. Until then, stay safe, no baby switching or fake deaths, and we'll see you back here to find out what's going to happen. Stay safe, everybody.
And don't take old men home.
Never take